While it may have taken DC 6 months to finish the story of the Villains United miniseries in its Infinite Crisis special, they wasted no time in launching the Secret Six miniseries. Gail Simone was joined by penciler Brad Walker, inker Jimmy Palmiotti, and colorist Paul Mounts in July of 2006 to launch this 6-issue miniseries. Despite owning this series and having read it at least once before, I really have no recollection of it. That's one of the joys of having such a large comic collection, the rediscovery of hidden gems. So reading this is one part a walk down memory lane, and one part a brand new experience for me. Join me, won't you? My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown episode Secret 6.2, the Secret Six miniseries. The first panel is an overhead photograph of the facility. 2 thick walls, a large guard tower, all surrounded by dirty gray snow. One of the prisoners narrates for us, telling us that this place is worse than Stalin's gulags or Mao's work camps. At least there is hope for freedom eventually. Here, in this place, the only hope is for a quiet death. And most don't get that. The guards are incentivized to kill escaping prisoners, often making a prisoner try to escape only to shoot them in the back. The prisoner then asks the person that he's talking to help them. Help them, or at least give them the tools to fight back. The prisoner is a white man, dressed in camouflage pants and a blood-stained A-shirt. His hands are tied behind his back, and there's a sack over his head. Only his left eye is exposed. The prisoner glares at the Korean man. Does he look like he's here to help? The door to the building opens and a guard enters. The guard walks up to our prisoner and points a gun at his head, barking orders in Korean. The other prisoner, the Korean man, interprets for us. The prisoner is to stand. The Korean man will go with him to interpret and then apologizes. Such is the will of the great leader. As they head outside, the guard thanks him for his jacket. He also insults him, which the translator skips, and then the guard smacks his pistol butt into the prisoner's head. He doesn't deserve the bullet that he's about to get. The pair is then pushed to their knees before the camp commandant, who is surrounded by guards and other prisoners. The commandant will hang the prisoner's body after his death, and every other captive will be forced to touch it. He's pretty excited about all this. He's never killed an American before. Not far away, a plane is about to turn away from the base. The pilot has one interest in mind, and that's protecting their own butt, so he isn't going to get any closer. If his passengers want off, they are welcome to leave. This is as close as they're going to get. Knockout approaches the pilot but addresses Catman. Want me to twist his head off? She asks. Catman ignores her though and moves on to the pilot. They had a deal. The pilot shrugs. Yeah, and you paid in advance, idiot. If you're going, then go. Catman plainly states that they will speak again. The pilot confidently doesn't think so. Catman and the Six line up in the cargo hold of the plane. No, they will. Catman is going to make it his business. The Six, minus Deadshot, parachute down. Once they land, Scandal reports that they're 10 minutes out. He has to be dead by now. Ragdoll shrugs, lamenting the costs of war. Knockout has an idea on how to get there quickly, but it won't be comfortable. Catman dryly explains that they're in hostile territory, 5 miles from the Chinese border, in freezing temperatures, as close to one of the most evil places on Earth as anyone could get. They should expect discomfort. Okay. Knockout picks him up with one hand, tosses him over her shoulder like a sack of potatoes, and leaps into the air. At the prison, the commandant is willing to give the prisoner one last chance to tell him his target. The prisoner is willing, which disappoints the commandant. After all the torture he'd been through, now is when he breaks? But fine, who is your target? The prisoner asks if the commandant recognizes the name Jip Lee An. Apologies for any terrible pronunciations there. This causes the commandant to burst out laughing. Yeah, he knows Jip Lee. He died weeks ago, a capitalist traitor. If you came here to kill him, you are a fool. The prisoner remains calm, though. He wasn't naming his target. He was naming his client, An's widow. Then he rolls, kicking up the gun that's pointed at the back of his head. Acting too quickly, the guard fires, shooting the commandant in the chest. He was the target. The collective guards pile onto the prisoner, dislodging his burlap mask. The prisoner is our missing sixth member, Deadshot, who comments that these guys are in a bad spot. Knockout lands, scattering the men before she begins tossing them around. One of the men attempts to mount a cannon, but Ragdoll hops atop them. He apologizes for killing the man in his native tongue while wrapping his legs around his neck. Catman returns Deadshot's mask, who is now armed, and the pair kill any who stand against them. The translator from earlier rushes towards Deadshot. He knew he would save them. He knew it. As he gets near shot, though, machine gun fire catches him in the back. The translator clutches onto Deadshot's shirt as he dies. Deadshot kills the guard and mounts the cannon, blasting at what forces remain. Scandal orders the soldiers to surrender. Her group isn't with the military. Their lives hold no meaning to them. The implication being that the Six will kill them if they have to, but that they don't have to. The soldiers do so, tossing their weapons down. Catman leans towards Deadshot. He realizes that they aren't the Justice League, but they can't just leave all of these prisoners. They're still, trapped in a hellhole. Deadshot, watching an inmate pick up a handgun, says that they won't have to do anything. The inmate shoots the nearest guard in the head, causing others to snatch up the rest of the dropped weapons. The Six take one of the jeeps and leave, their feelings mixed. Scandal doesn't like leaving the prisoners with a fate so uncertain. Deadshot says that they're only 5 miles from China. They might make it. Catman prays that they do. Knockout, another character from Apocalypse, Darkseid's world of war and pain, comments that Earth isn't so different from her home. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a fool. 2 days later, the Six are gathering at the House of Secrets. But before we move on, let's look at that opening scene. It's impossible to tell whether Simone or artist Brad Walker was the one who chose to make the first panel of the prison a photograph. The rest of the scene between the translator and Deadshot is framed in normal comic panels, so this single shot stands out. Whoever set it up did it to indicate that this is a mission, a pre-op bit of intelligence. We now know, right off the bat, that this isn't just some guy in prison. Someone is on a mission. This doesn't just tell us Deadshot's reason for being in prison, but also that the Six are part of the plan. I don't understand that plan, though. Given that the Six are a loose team and clearly working together, I don't understand how Lawton drew the get captured, tortured, and then kill the target straw on this job. The conversation makes it feel like Deadshot has been in the prison for some time, but if that's true, why did they wait so long to save him? The Six, well, hell, they're actually down a member, so 5, have no trouble storming the prison. Why go through all of this subterfuge and trouble of getting Deadshot inside if the plan is to just charge in and kill everybody anyways? The bit where Knockout picks up Catman in order to leap them over the prison doesn't work either. It's funny, sure, but when Knockout arrives, she's alone, with no Catman in tow. And 2 panels later, Ragdoll is the next character that we see. This implies that Ragdoll can run as fast as Knockout can jump. The whole idea was that the Six were too far out and needed to get to the prison quickly, but if Knockout's method isn't faster, then why pick up Catman and leap away? It just doesn't make sense. Simone also wisely pits the Six against someone that most people don't like: cruel, cold-hearted prison guards. This is why the translator tells Deadshot, and us, about the prison and the terrible things that the guards do. It immediately causes us to side with the Six and sympathize with their actions. But then we end with them abandoning the prisoners to their fate. Simone is telling us that the Six can do good deeds, but that they also aren't good people. My last little note about this scene is that the team all wears winter weather costumes. Remember them wearing stealth gear in Villains United? Well, here their costumes are all tinted slightly white, although Knockout's green remains pretty green. I like the consistency being established that the team adapts to the mission and that they're all willing to do it. It's kind of cute. On to the House of Secrets. The Six are about to gather, which has sent Ragdoll into a bit of a panic. He never knows what to wear to these things. He calls out to Parademon asking for his advice, but the stuffed corpse doesn't answer. Ragdoll responds as if he answered, but no, that is a stuffed corpse. At a certain point, you think you've seen the strangest, creepiest thing that Ragdoll could do, and then he still takes it up another notch. Deadshot and Catman swing by Ragdoll's room, and all three head to the boiler room. Once there, Scandal hands out their pay for the Korean job. She's smartly dressed in a business suit and plays the role to a T. She's removed expenses, of course, and then ran the funds through several accounts, even preparing some nice portfolios for them to review. Donations were made to extremist animal rights group for Catman, while Deadshot's daughter could attend Harvard several times over. Ragdoll chimes in with his plan to buy a monkey house and lots of monkey outfits. Deadshot grimaces. Don't tell us that stuff. Scandal then brings up some old problem. Her source in the New Society tells them that they're still on someone's radar. Catman correctly guesses that it's Dr. Psycho. Scandal says that he has quite a dislike of Catman. Blake isn't worried, though. Psycho was too cowardly to face them head-on. Knockout cautions against that kind of thinking. Psycho is full of evil and hate, and he is dangerous, even if he doesn't look it. His mind control powers could do a lot of damage, even turn them on each other, Scandal warns. She then asks Blake to contact the countermeasure that they discussed. He's hesitant. Catman has met this guy before, and he is not as harmless as people like to think that he is. He might actually be worse than Psycho. Scandal isn't going into this blind. They absolutely need to watch this prospective member, but they can't risk not having the protection he could offer at this point. She asks him to talk to this person and then tells everyone else to enjoy their vacation. Given that this may be the first time a new reader has seen the Six, Simone uses this scene to introduce their personalities. If you listened to episode 6.1, you already get it, but Ragdoll is the weird comedy relief, Deadshot is crass and uncouth, Scandal is the formal brains, Knockout is the experienced warrior, and Catman is the honorable killer, all of which is established through dialogue here. One of the things that I think is particularly interesting is that Ragdoll is played as comedic relief, but he never actually jokes. This thought occurred to me as I was reading through this volume, and I think that the idea holds up. Ragdoll repeatedly told Parademon in Villains United that he isn't a clown. He doesn't tell jokes, but everything he says or does feels funny. But those lines are all delivered with a straight face, and are true. When he states that he had his penis removed, he's totally serious. When he says that he feels rude for killing that Korean soldier while speaking English, I honestly think that he means it. The line about buying monkeys, we will see later on that he does buy some monkeys. And that kind of shifts all of Ragdoll's character and lines. When Loughton and Blake stop by his room before the meeting, Loughton says that listening to him talk to Demon is as creepy as French kissing your sister. But then Ragdoll says that he's done that, and it was actually less awkward. That is not a joke. He is 100% honest. This realization adds a whole nother level of disturbing to Ragdoll. In Gotham, the revamped society is meeting. I'm not sure if this is the whole lineup, but we at least have Talia al Ghul, Calculator, and yep, Dr. Psycho. The not-quite-so-good doctor is trying to rally his allies against the Six once more. They're down a member, so they're weak, and yet they're still a threat. They need to kill them. But neither of his partners are interested in perusing petty grudges. They have better things to do. Realizing that he's not going to win them over, Psycho agrees that they're right. He'll move on. Later on, Psycho fails to move on from the subject. He calls someone, a woman. He tells her to tell the man that Psycho was in, but he gets to kill Catman, yes? The woman agrees. She'll tell the big man. Psycho tells her that she'll have a squad of mercenaries ready in the morning. Around the world, the Six are enjoying their vacations. In New Orleans, Ragdoll is having dinner. The waiter apologizes for asking, but he asks anyways, was Ragdoll in some kind of accident? Ragdoll grabs his head and turns it all the way around. Yes, you might say that. He then orders the lamb fritters. In Star City, Deadshot is spending a day at the park with his wife. Wait, are they married? I don't think the Deadshot has ever called her his wife. Let's go with partner until we know better. So they're at the park with their daughter, Zoe, enjoying the day. In Bangkok, Scandal and Knockout lounge on the balcony of a high-rise hotel, just enjoying each other's company. Somewhere else entirely, Catman's Catmobile pulls up to a large, decrepit mansion. He knocks on the door and a voice comes through the intercom. Whoever this is, they've been expecting him. That woman, who I'm assuming is Scandal, spoke to him. But why is Catman here? The mystery character has very weird speech patterns, talking about everything in a very roundabout way. Catman explains that they need his help, his talents. Elsewhere, the woman that Psycho had spoken to contacts him again. The word is go. Across the globe, the Six come under attack. Ibak wraps a towel around Ragdoll's neck and pulls him from his seat. A woman armed with swords approaches Deadshot, warning his family away. Pistolera aims a Thanagarian sniper rifle at Knockout and Scandal, and fires. A small ticking device is embedded in Knockout's shoulder. She grabs Scandal and throws her off the balcony down to the waters below, and then she explodes. The only member who goes unmolested is Catman, who waves away smoke as he enters the mansion. He knows that this person doesn't like the society, and the society knows how dangerous he is too, so it's only a matter of time before they come after him. Better to side with the Six now than later. Catman says that they need each other. The other person isn't sold on that idea yet, but you know what? It would be fun to bring the whole house of cards down. The camera turns, revealing to us the Mad Hatter. He sits atop a pile of hats, a hookah made of human skulls in his naked lap. He leans over the pile of hats that he sits atop. He's throwing his hat in. Okay, so that's a weird character choice. Well, perhaps not weird. The Mad Hatter is a Batman villain famous for inventing mind control chips that he then installs in hats. Outside of this book, I've never actually read a comic that featured him in any way. I remember an episode of Batman the Animated Series pretty fondly, probably due to the Hatter's obvious Alice in Wonderland theming. But he's a good pick to go against Psycho, because both of them have mental powers. I also like Simone utilizing Catman's role of the Batman guy on this team in order to recruit the Hatter. So we know that Dr. Psycho and some women are working for another party in their attempt to kill the Six. Who is this woman? And who is their mysterious benefactor? And holy jeez, why kill Knockout? She's only been on the team for like 3 appearances. And she and Scandal are so cute together. Don't separate them already. Simone does a good job reintroducing us to our cast and their lives here. While I do have some issue with the story details, which I pointed out, this still reads well and wastes no time throwing the Six and us into a new adventure. Brad Walker is an artist who I've come to love over the years. I think his time on Secret Six predates his run on Guardians of the Galaxy with Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, which is the first place that I remember seeing his work. His lines here are very fluid, giving the cast a very fleshy kind of appearance. I kind of want to call it organic looking. There aren't a lot of straight lines on the characters or their costumes. He does a good job with the acting, especially when the Six are together in the House of Secrets. His work does feel oddly unrefined compared to what I eventually saw in the Guardians, but that could either be growth over time or the fact that he has a different inker on this. Artist Karl Kerschel provides cover art for the Six this time around. I, in general, like Kerschel's artwork. He does a good blend of realistic and animated styles. His figure is relatively real, but with little shading or darkness. He doesn't tend to use a lot of spot blacks, which favors the work of a colorist. He did the interiors on 2001's Iceman miniseries, which I enjoyed, and it's good to see his work again. But the cover for issue 1 does nothing to sell me on this book. The majority of the cover is a dark golden brown map, a series of dots indicating stops along the way. The bottom is an all-black silhouette of a military camp or prison in a tropical setting. Then, framed in thickly bordered panels, are partial images of the Six. And when I say partial, I mean it. We get just like a glimpse of Ragdoll's shoulder and hair, the targeting reticle that Deadshot wears, the left side of Scandal's torso. Catman has the largest panel and includes almost all of his full face, indicating him as a lead out of all of these characters. Oh, and there's a sizable "From the Pages of Villains United" blurb on these as well. Everything about this cover screams spy story. The map, the locations we're breaking into/out of, the mysterious cast only hinted at. And while I suppose there's some degree of that inside the Six's base infiltration, it doesn't read accurately to me. This isn't a spy comic, it's an action thriller. It should have a way more explosive cover than this. The muted colors make it look brown and uninteresting, the cast barely present on it. And while reminding readers about the Villains United connection is great, it's also been 6 months since the main miniseries ended. Did so many people buy that series in order to justify that blurb? And if I was buying this fresh off the comics display at my local comic shop, this cover would have done nothing to draw me in. The cover for issue 2 continues with this theming. It works a bit better for me as Pistolera graces the cover, her jeans hugging tight and her bra straps peeking through her shirt, but who the hell is Pistolera? She made like one panel in issue 1 where she shot Knockout, but I don't have an interest in this woman. And once again, the Six are relegated to small panels, this time washed out all in red. This cover sells based on sex appeal, but it doesn't represent the story or the cast. I feel like DC Editorial was trying to shoot this book in the foot. I don't think that's likely. After all, they do eventually greenlight a Secret Six ongoing series, but I think they could have done a better job on these covers. This issue opens with Scandal in a dark room. She's in costume, one light backlighting her frame. She narrates to her beloved, Knockout, that this isn't the first time that she's been in a dark room with a woman, but she's changed since then. Now, she's in love. She pulls up her face mask and grabs a razor from a tray of implements. As she examines it, Scandal explains that she's been debating her path in life. Would she be good, like her mother, or whatever her father is? But she is no longer undecided. Pistolera helped her to choose when she took Knockout away. We turn the page and Scandal jumps onto the restrained Pistolera, her razor held high and murder in her eyes. Wow, we went from 0 to 60 on torture. Okay. This is perhaps the most emotional we've seen Scandal so far, and it's pretty chilling just for a page. Her narration to Knockout is calm, thought out, and loving. Walker keeps the camera on Scandal only, revealing no details of the location. This slowly builds over the page, which is just 4 panels before Scandal explodes into motion, carrying us forward into the rest of the issue. Simone isn't just building tension, though, she's also building more foundation for Scandal and Knockout's relationship. We're told that Knockout isn't her first lover, but that she is the first person that she's in love with. We also firmly establish Scandal's indecisiveness in how she approaches her life. Is she a hero, or is she a villain? This rings back to her comment in the Villains United one-shot about not being a warrior born over barbecue, as well as her line to Catman at the end of it. Eventually, we'll have to choose. I don't think that anyone in this book really worries about their moral direction, but Scandal does, which is a nice bit for her character compared to the rest of these guys. Unfortunately for Pistolera, she kinda gave Scandal a nudge in a very particular direction. We then flash back 36 hours and visit the various parties of the Six as they come under attack. Lady Vic, a female sword-wielding mercenary, and Double Dare, a sister pair that are acrobatic thieves, have subdued Deadshot. Lady Vic was kind enough to let his partner and daughter leave. She raises her sword, preparing to kill him, but a bullet races through her arm. Deadshot's partner comes running up, tossing him the gun that she fired when he asks for it. He snatches it out of the air and aims it right at one half of Double Dare. He's ready to kill her, but his partner, Susan, stops him. She doesn't want her daughter Zoe to see him kill someone. Zoe already has to grow up with some part of Lawton in who she is. She doesn't need to see this. So he lets them go, but he's going to keep 2 bullets from this gun. And someday, when he finds them, it'll be like no time has passed at all. Iback, who fought the Six in Villains United issue 6, is back and is trying to kill Ragdoll in New Orleans. Unfortunately for Iback, he attacked Doll at a restaurant. While flinging Doll around, he was able to pick up a handful of serrated steak knives, and Doll then slides his hand down Iback's throat. Holy crap, man. Ragdoll then offers Iback a deal. Either he goes free, or he drops them inside of Iback. And Iback agrees to the deal. I mean, who wouldn't? However, due to the nature of Iback's powers, Ragdoll doesn't trust him. So, when Iback lets him go, he drops the knives anyways and leaves the scene. Confused? So was I. It turns out Iback is a Captain Marvel villain, or Shazam, as he's since been rebranded, But where Shazam gets his powers from magical gods, Ibak is empowered by 4 of history's most frightening men: Ivan the Terrible, Caesar Borgia, Attila the Hun, and Caligula. So that's kind of neat. Bet you weren't expecting to learn something about Shazam this episode, were you? Neither was I. Scandal, of course, survived Knockout's explosion in Bangkok. She resumes narrating to her beloved, adding a layer of personal horror and disbelief to the scene. She saw Pistolera before her helicopter flew away, but only for a moment. Then she returned to their penthouse and dug until she found Knockout's body. That was when she started screaming. She doesn't know how long that lasted for, but she did eventually notice the labored breathing of Knockout. She wasn't dead. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Simone. But Scandal didn't feel relief or joy at this discovery. Instead, vengeance burns through her veins, a desire for revenge building. She says that this is the first time her father's hatred of humanity has been present in her. Scandal explains that she doesn't believe in good or evil, only noble or ignoble actions. Her friends would certainly aid her in revenge. Her radio comes to life as Catman calls in the attacks. Catman is the only one of the 6 not attacked so far, still at Mad Hatter's location. Scandal curls up next to Knockout's burned body and asks him to get to Bangkok. With that, we are caught back up to Scandal's torture scene. Deadshot, Catman, and the Hatter are all at the House of Secrets as well. Catman apologizes to the Hatter for the bad first impression, but he's pretty okay with it. Not only is their house a clever hideout, but Scandal is clearly off her rocker about something. All he needs is some tea and cakes, and this would be a party. Deadshot, however, is less excited. He stands outside the torture room, arms crossed. That wasn't Scandal that went inside. That was Vandal Savage's daughter. Inside, Scandal berates Pistolera for not attacking Catman. I mean, why leave the world's greatest tracker alive and healthy? Did she think that they wouldn't find her? Scandal cuts off the tape covering Pistolera's mouth. Pistolera doesn't bother to play it tough. She was told not to touch Blake. And Pistolera's goal wasn't to hurt Scandal, just kill Knockout. That was the job. She tries to justify her actions by saying that Scandal isn't new to this. She's killed for money before. Scandal doesn't argue that. Sure, if their places were stopped, she would be the one at Pistolera's mercy. She spins, stabbing her blade into Pistolera's shoulder. It's good for Scandal that their positions aren't swapped. Outside, Blake is getting worried. Killing someone in a fight is one thing, but this? Torturing a prisoner? He suspects that this will be rough for Scandal once she's finished with it. Deadshot, however, doesn't share his concerns. Even the super goodies go a bit wacko when you murder their loved ones. That's why he doesn't take family sanctions. Usually. The Hatter, meanwhile, has made tea for all. An hour later, Scandal's vengeance has run its course. Now she's just bored. She stares at Pistolera. Who hired her? The other woman doesn't even hesitate when answering. She manages to choke out Cheshire's name. Ah, okay. Scandal calls Catman in, and even he is unnerved at the sight of Pistolera. Scandal tells him about Cheshire and asks him, what should she do with Pistolera now? Catman does agree that Deadshot has a point. This woman has friends, and she almost killed Knockout. After this, if they don't kill her, she will probably be back. But to just kill her now while she's helpless, even he can't condone that. He can't tell her what to do, though, asking instead what she wants to do. And Scandal thought that she wanted to kill her. She'd even prepared some things to say when she did the deed, but now, looking at her, she doesn't finish the thought. Catman praises her for having a soul. They should let her go. Deadshot's bullet passes right between them, hitting Pistolera in the head. He then tells them that the Hatter has cakes. Scandal isn't sure if she wants to kiss Loughton or kill him for this. He's pretty nonchalant about the murder. He knew that Scandal would feel bad if she did the deed, so he did it for her. No big deal. Hatter delivers tea. No reason that death should spoil their party. Catman glares at the shorter man. He isn't helping. The oven dings and the Hatter announces that his scones are done. Scandal decides to give Loughton a kiss, which she plants on his head. Her narration continues again, explaining that her ignoble friend did what she couldn't. She calls it an evil deed done with good intent. She finds their line straddling to be liberating. Catman then asks if Pistolera gave Scandal a location, and yes, she did. Before we move on, let's breathe a minute. That was a lot of stuff, and it was intense. I enjoyed seeing the Sixes fight against their attackers. Ragdoll's abilities don't really lend themselves to a lot of defensive actions, so you think that he'd be an easy target. That's part of why Simone sent a super strong brawler against him. In theory, Ibak should be able to break Ragdoll with ease. But it's pretty hard to actually break Ragdoll. He even comments that Ibak needs to crush organs in order to stop him. And the only way that Ragdoll can fight back is to do his other shtick. Something weird. And in this case, it really pays off. I'm a bit surprised at Deadshot's willingness to die with Lady Vic, though. I'll buy that this guy can and does disconnect from his feelings when killing, but when he's faced with death? Is that Simone's point, that Deadshot's own survival mechanism is double-edged? We do see his inability to fight without a gun again, kind of reinforcing my point about his build in our last episode. And I do think that it makes some sense that his partner would be armed. I mean, if my wife was a hit woman with potential superheroes as enemies, I would be armed too. But both parents try to protect Zoe from Loughton's life, which I think is pretty sweet. The real story here is Scandal's torture of Pistolera. This is really the most character-focused that Scandal's gotten, which I think is clever. Scandal was one of the least developed members of the Six in the last miniseries, so fleshing her out now is a welcome thing. The particular way she views good and evil, or noble and ignoble actions, is interesting. She still passes judgment on a person's actions, but not from a place of morality. Instead, she judges whether an action is honorable. Deadshot, for example, is a dishonorable man, holding to no code at all, but his killing of Pistolera was done out of kindness towards her. So she's okay with murder because it was meant as a mercy. I would imagine that with a man like Vandal Savage as your dad, sure, your views are probably outside of the norm. But it's interesting to me that she holds herself in such high regard when she's a killer for hire, as I do judge people from a place of morality. This kind of reinforces the idea that Vandal and Scandal hold themselves as separate from the rest of humanity, that they're better than the rest of us. I also think that this scene highlights the line that these characters walk. Scandal recognizes her need for vengeance. She can feel it developing. But she doesn't fight against it or try to rise above those feelings. She never strives to be a better person. She just rolls with it, accepting its righteousness because they are her emotions, and her emotions are above reproach. It's only after she sees what she's done to Pistolera that Scandal doubts her emotional want. She then turns to Catman for advice. Not Deadshot, but Catman. If she wanted, on a purely instinctive level, to kill Pistolera, she could have just asked Deadshot, knowing that he's pretty cool with killing people. He's killed several times in cold blood, the Fiddler and Hyena being the two most recent. He would, and does, have no problem with murder, as he goes on to demonstrate. But Catman has consistently tried not to kill, and only after Scandal says that she doesn't want to kill her victim does he agree with her. While Catman presents as a tough, knowledgeable, wise warrior, he's still figuring this out too. To me, though, this shows that Scandal's instincts lean towards mercy, even if her heart demands blood. Much like Parademon and Ragdoll, the Hatter is largely played for laughs, his own views on life so different from everyone else's to be practically alien. He has no regard for the lives of others and is totally unbothered by Pistolera's situation. He's wrapped in his own business, preparing tea and baking scones while everyone else frets over morality. This doesn't help Scandal's situation, as she teeters between noble and ignoble, and Catman knows it, which is why he tries to shut the Hatter down. We also have the revelation that Cheshire is alive, the woman that Dr. Psycho was in contact with last issue. The real question now is whether or not she really did get pregnant with Catman's baby. And if she did, is that something that will stop the Six from killing her? Catman, Deadshot, and Scandal travel to the Himalayas, a place that Catman is familiar with. Their guides take them to a mountaintop fortress and leave immediately upon arrival. They know better than to hang around here. Deadshot lights up a cigarette and proceeds to give Catman crap over his relationship with Cheshire. Catman takes it all in stride, but underneath his exterior, he's bothered. He climbs the spiked door with ease, enters the fortress, and owns the 2 guards. He opens the gate, asking his allies not to kill the monks inside. For all they know, these monks are just defending their temple. A veritable army of monks then swarm them, and, using non-lethal methods, the 6 are going to lose. Deadshot drops to the ground, warning Scandal and Blake about hot tar. Then he opens fire, shooting the monks in their lower legs, effectively ending the fight. With things a bit calmer, Cheshire descends some stairs, berating Catman for the violence. He could have just emailed. Scandal prepares to charge Cheshire, but Catman stops her. Let him try talking to her first. All he wants to know is why did she do it, and who hired her. The why is easy. It's her job. She got paid, thank you very much. But she isn't the brains behind this, that was Dr. Psycho. She then actually apologizes to Scandal for Knockout, although I kind of doubt her sincerity. Cheshire states that she admires Knockout's ability to turn on her friends, referencing her old allegiance to the society. Cheshire then offers, before they kill her, to show Catman the thing that he fears the most. The monks open up a pair of doors, revealing a baby's room. Cheshire says that she should have died, but she stayed alive for this baby. She passes her son over to Catman, who appears to be honored and amazed. Is this why Catman wasn't attacked? Did whatever feelings Cheshire has for Catman outweigh the job she was given? That would be pretty surprising, but I mean, it'd be interesting. Cheshire then replies that no, quite the opposite. She put together 2 teams to eliminate Catman, actually, just to make sure that he died. Why they didn't reach him is never addressed, though. Cheshire smiles. She's had custody problems before, referring to the father of her first child, the superhero named Arsenal. Fed up with all of this crap, Deadshot finally asks, who set all this up? Cheshire doesn't know. And to be honest, she doesn't care who did. She takes her son back from Catman. It's not her business who wants them dead, just the killing part. Scandal isn't ready to go yet. Cheshire is responsible for 2 of the 6 nearly dying. They can't just leave her alive. But Catman asks her to calm down. Someone else was behind the attack, although Cheshire was the one to execute it. Whoever that is, they are the 6's target. He asks her to step back for him, as a friend, and she lowers her blades. The majority of this scene is pretty straightforward. The 6 go after Cheshire, but there are a few things worth noting. The first is that Catman's narration has him state that he's been to the Himalayas before, and when Cheshire reveals herself, she coyly says, "Oh, Thomas, this is the 2nd time you've come to visit me." So this sounds like Simone was hinting that Catman has a better relationship with Cheshire than he lets on with the rest of the 6. However, Catman reacts to the birth of his child as if it's new, and subterfuge isn't really Catman's thing. Face your enemies head on, remember? And it is possible that he visited the Himalayas during his rebirth. We don't exactly have a lot of details on that time period. I may be reading too far into some offhand comments as well. But Catman does seem to care for Cheshire in some way. This is the 2nd time that he's protected her from the vengeance of the 6, and I gotta wonder how often that trick will work before they don't let it. I almost feel like Cheshire slept with Catman just to steal his affections and gain his protection against the others. Yeesh. We also see a crack between Deadshot and Catman forming. Deadshot vaguely picks on everyone in the 6, maintaining an air of casual indifference for the most part. Everyone gets it, but here he just will not let up about the Cheshire thing. But Catman doesn't call him out on it either, a sign that this relationship with Cheshire bothers him just as much as it does Deadshot. He knows that this relationship is a bad thing, but it happened and he just has to roll with it. Catman also refers to Deadshot as probably his closest friend, but he also gets the feeling that he'll end up killing Deadshot someday. I think that this is because Deadshot is voicing Catman's own concerns. He is a jerk, yes, but he means well. But he'll probably push that voice too far one day, and when he does, only one of these men will walk away. The sudden narrative shift away from Scandal and her inner drama is sudden, moving over to Catman in one page. And really, at least a few hours, if not days, have to have passed between killing Pistolera and arriving at Cheshire's temple. So while Scandal is still in revenge mode, her heart really isn't in it either. Nor does Cheshire actively attack Scandal or provoke her, making it easier for Catman to talk her down. Much like with Pistolera, Scandal doesn't really appear to have cold-blooded murder in her. Although given the amount of trouble Cheshire is, I kinda think that Deadshot should have shot her too. The mystery surrounding the attack on the Six remains largely untouched though. While having Cheshire's role in this revealed is nice, we still don't know who the big man that she referred to in issue 1 is, why she was directed to send these teams against the Six, or Psycho's role in this. Yet. Because we haven't heard from Ragdoll either. Let's remedy that. The final scene of issue 2 is set in a hospital. There, we find Dr. Psycho dressed in overalls as he tries to get past reception. It's hard to tell if he's using his mental abilities to win over the receptionist, or if he is just that good of an actor, but he convinces her that he's part of the same circus as Ragdoll. They're all the family that they have. He needs to see him. She takes him to Ragdoll's room and leaves as he prepares to chat with Doll. Not a whole lot of subtext to this. Dr. Psycho is at least going to get some, and probably brainwash or kill Ragdoll. Great. I don't even know if the Six know about Doll's condition. He wasn't mentioned at all during their portions of this story. And the Hatter isn't seen anywhere either. I mean, I guess he probably isn't one for climbing mountains. Can't say that I blame him. Issue 3 actually opens with Blake at that same hospital visiting Ragdoll. Doll complains about the food, although he's eyeing that Jell-O pretty hard. Blake says that the Six were all attacked and that Ragdoll would probably be safer at their house. Ragdoll counters that argument. One of the nurses gave him her number after hearing that he was multiply jointed. A bit unnerved by this bit of news, Blake presses the point. At the nurse's station, Scandal is arguing with the woman there. She has brought all of the necessary paperwork to discharge Ragdoll. What's the problem? Turns out, Ragdoll is a person of interest in a string of bank robberies, and the nurse is stalling for time. She presses a silent alarm, summoning federal agents. Scandal curses her while removing her heels, freeing up her ability to move. She warns Blake over the wrist communicators. That's neat. And he copies. 2 agents enter Ragdoll's room, informing us of Doll's past offenses. Blake grabs the metal lid off Doll's food tray and chucks it at the agents. Caught off guard, they only get a few shots off before Blake flips over the bed, kicking one as he does. Time to leave, Blake says. Scandal agrees, asking if Ragdoll is okay. Blake asks if Ragdoll was ever okay as he leaps from the window, Doll and Jell-O in tow. That Jell-O is cherry-flavored, by the way, just in case you were wondering. As perhaps the most even-tempered members of the Six, it makes sense to send Scandal and Blake. I'd still like to know how they found out about Ragdoll or why they put off recovering him before their trip to shoot Cheshire, though. Torturing Pistolera and then going to the Himalayas had to have taken some time. It's not like the group was running from one emergency to the next there. But it is good to see him again, his off-putting brand of hilarious truth always entertaining. As they escape, Ragdoll laments the loss of the nurse. Oh, the places he could have gotten himself into. I point this out because Ragdoll had previously stated that he doesn't have a penis anymore. So it's interesting to me that he does still have a sexual appetite, it's just aimed at giving his partner pleasure rather than himself. This scene was also so fast and so engaging that, when reading, I totally forgot about Psycho's visit at the end of last issue. And if I had gotten this comic when it was first coming out, that would have been an awesome move on Simone's part. The ability to set up a surprise and still deliver on it, despite the audience knowing that it's coming, is great. When that Psycho scene does pay off, I was totally ambushed. I love it. Don't worry, folks. We'll get there. Before we do, though, the Six return to the House of Secrets for some rest and recovery. Loughton complains about Blake making eggs, again, so he offers the marksman some raw zebra haunch. Loughton wisely chooses to take the eggs. Blake goes on to answer his friend's off-panel question. Is his sandy hair in its natural state? Apparently, during his sobbing mess scene with Green Arrow, Blake's hair was colored black, so he explains that he thought it made him look tough. Loudon isn't really buying that explanation, but hey, Blake is the one with a knife in his hand, so he'll take it. That's when the pair noticed the Hatter rummaging through the fruit bowl. What are you doing, man? Why, he's putting little hats onto the fruits. He never eats anything uncapped. This guy's great. I love this guy. The point of this scene, mostly, is to show the passage of time between rescuing Ragdoll and the upcoming events. While I was unaware of Blake's darker hair color, it is nice of Simone to offer an in-continuity explanation for the change. The Hatter moment is there to throw us off. Remember, Blake warned them that people underestimate the Hatter, that he seems harmless. This is Simone showing us how silly and ridiculous he can be, which will make the demonstration of his power all that much more potent. Elsewhere in the house, Scandal has fallen asleep while keeping vigil over a bandaged Knockout. Knockout wakes up, hungry and dirty, and slips out to shower. She praises Darkseid for her regenerative powers, and then our wet blue orb for shampoo. Why does Knockout care so much about our shampoo? It's because her hair is down past her butt, and it floats like a halo in most scenes. It has some friggin' volume, folks. She finishes her shower and goes to the kitchen as Blake is serving omelets, and she does so in the nude. Blake and Loudon are pretty much speechless as she collects their plates. Then she exits, planning to eat on the veranda. Once she's gone, Loudon turns to the Hatter. No straight man would have failed to pay attention to that, but the Hatter didn't even look up. What is the deal, man? The Hatter yawns, asking if she was wearing a hat or not. He holds up a tiny sombrero, eyeing the fruit. Talk to him when she's properly clad. So first, glad to have you up and around, Knockout. As a DC newbie, I didn't even know that she had a healing factor, but it does make sense for her background. Secondly, this scene may feel like a joke or just a bit of fan service, but it's actually serving to establish that she has a different frame of sexual reference than the rest of the group. This is going to come into play a bit later, which is why I wanted to point it out now. It's not just some TNA, it does have a purpose. Scandal, still asleep at the side of Knockout's bed, begins to dream. She's dressed in her costume and on edge. A voice calls out to her, telling her to show her mettle. I like to imagine it as the announcer voice from Mortal Kombat. Show your mettle. Scandal realizes that this is a dream, but even her dreams are not safe from her father, Vandal Savage. In a series of really well-crafted pages, Vandal explains that he wants Scandal to bear him an heir. This child shall someday slay Vandal and then rule the world until its inevitable end. Scandal points out that she isn't really into having sex with men, and for an immortal caveman, Vandal is actually pretty understanding. He's fine with her relationship with Knockout. So long as she is happy, then so is he. That's pretty sweet. But he's used to watching his children and accomplishments either die or fade over time. He's going to have this. And he's even chosen a donor for her, saving her the effort. And it's her pal Catman. What is this guy, DC's sexiest man of 2006? Jeez. Scandal balks at that, uncomfortable with using her friend in that way. Vandal, magnanimous as he is willing to negotiate. Pick another man for his approval. That's fine. But she will pick. Scandal calls him insane, and he quite agrees. Living 50,000 years will do that to you. But she will do this thing. And he explains why, although Simone doesn't let us in on the secret. Instead, Scandal snaps awake and discovers that Knockout is gone. She calls out for her lover, and Knockout runs into the room, explaining her absence. She also explains about her healing factor, implying that even Scandal didn't know about it. Loudon interrupts them. Catman has a lead on the woman who shot him, so they're going a-huntin'. Just a quick note, no one shot Deadshot. Even during his battle with Lady Vic and Double Dare, he wasn't shot. Lady Vic used a sword, while Double Dare appeared to be hand-to-hand combatants. The only person who got shot in that conflict was Lady Vic, Deadshot's partner, shooting her in her sword arm. I'm guessing that this is just an error in the writing. It stood out to me because Deadshot is pretty deliberate in what he chooses to say, so saying this sentence is weird. Brad Walker killed it on the pages featuring Vandal and Scandal. The facial expressions, the acting, the lighting, it's just so well done. Paul Mounts, who did colors on this issue, does a great job as well. As much as I liked Eaglesham's take on the characters in Villains United, Walker's interpretations are growing on me, especially his version of Scandal. Of course, his time drawing her also covers so much of her character development, so it makes sense that she shines through. He makes sure to have her father dominate in this dream sequence, highlighting the control that he has over Scandal. Or perhaps it illustrates how much more powerful Scandal thinks he is. We'll see about that. We next find the six in their helicopter, on their way to visit Lady Vic. Hatter is with them this time, although I'm not sure who is piloting the chopper. Classically, Scandal has been their pilot, but everyone is present in the seating area. Scandal even assures them that this vehicle came from Luthor, so Lady Vic and Double Dare will have no idea that they're coming. Despite sitting next to Knockout, Scandal is withdrawn, facing away from her love. Knockout picks up on this and asks about her, but Scandal says that she's fine. Walker makes sure to keep Scandal hunched over, the weight of her father's expectations pressing down on her. Deadshot asks how good this intel is, but Catman says that it's solid. Double Dare were just hired muscle, they have no loyalty to Lady Vic, but he didn't get anything more than the location from them. He turns to Scandal. She's the one who's been navigating through cyberspace for their mystery assailants. Does she have any ideas? Vandal's grinning face hovers over her back. She looks away from him, and she has no idea. Catman can tell something suspicious is up and asks if Scandal is not telling them something. Knockout defends Scandal, but her lover replies with a question. A poet named Muriel Rucksire once asked what would happen if a woman told the truth about her life. Scandal closes her eyes and answers, "The world would split open." That is a bad sign, Blake. Ragdoll's phone rings, so he takes the call, excusing himself. Catman tells the lowly pilot to drop them near the barn. Oh, so that's our pilot. Okay. Lowlies, by the way, are the lowest class of citizens on Apocalypse and act as support staff / servants at the House of Secrets. They were actually introduced in issue 1, and I just kind of breezed past it because I didn't think they were going to play a role in the story, and so I apologize. Catman then asks Deadshot to provide cover fire if they're spotted, but Ragdoll interrupts him. His hands slide behind his back and grab a pair of knives. Then he apologizes to Catman for what he's about to do. Then Ragdoll slashes at Catman's chest. The other six take action quickly, trying to subdue, if not kill, Ragdoll. He's apologizing the whole time, which seems to run against his actions. This contradiction makes the scene seem silly, but Ragdoll's so hard to handle that he could really be deadly. He sweeps Knockout out of the chopper, but she grabs onto his wrist. She glares at him. She will never let go. Ragdoll believes her. He raises his knife and cuts off his own hand! Holy Jesus, dude, what the flip? Deadshot has him sighted in, but Catman tells him to wait. He gives Ragdoll one last chance. Stand down or die. Ragdoll leaps at Catman, choosing death. Catman rolls back, allowing Ragdoll to fly right over him and out of the helicopter. He refuses to believe that Ragdoll would betray them, though. And Deadshot could swear that he just saw Ragdoll betray him. That is weird. Scandal orders the pilot to set them down, and they finally notice the Hatter. During the attack, he stated that he was going to put on his thinking hat, and now it looks like he's having a seizure. And Scandal doesn't even give a crap. She needs to find Knockout. Catman tries to keep the group together, but she argues that this mission has already failed. She runs off after Knockout, while Catman and Deadshot move the Hatter into the barn. Scandal finds Knockout alive and in good spirits for having fallen out of a helicopter. She honestly thought that she had lost Knockout, and we see Vandal hover over her memories again. His memory says that the first attack upon them was a warning. If she doesn't deliver on his grandchild, he'll keep going until Knockout is dead. She doesn't tell Knockout this, instead whispering that she just cannot lose her. Deadshot is still creeped out over Hatter's collapse, and Catman is about to offer his theory about that when Ragdoll approaches. But this time it's him, minus a hand, although the other one is broken and his mask is gone. He explains that Dr. Psycho planted some kind of post-hypnotic suggestion and once more apologizes. Scandal, assessing the group, is ready to leave. Hatter and Doll need medical attention, and that's before they fight Lady Vic and Double Dare. Knockout is confident that she can still take them, but Catman smells the air. They've been spotted, and it's not by the Lady Vic. Standing behind the group is the Doom Patrol. Ragdoll asks Catman to see if they found his hand, by the way. The Doom Patrol have gained a new bit of fame in recent days thanks to their show on DC's streaming service and Gerard Way's run that launched back in 2016. They're basically a group of superpowered people whose powers have left them traumatized or seriously afflicted, unable to fit in polite society anymore. This iteration consists of Robot Man, a robot with the brain of a man, Bumblebee and Vox, who I'm fairly unfamiliar with, save for Bumblebee's shrinking and flying powers. Negative Man can possess the bodies of others, while Mento has a bevy of psychic abilities. Finally, there's Elastigirl and Beast Boy, who I know from the Teen Titans cartoons. The Doom Patrol are kind of known for being a strange, offbeat, overly dramatic group of characters. So they're kind of perfect to go against the Six. Issue 4 is devoted to this confrontation, but first, we go to Japan and visit Vandal Savage. This is the moment where I had totally forgotten that Psycho had visited Ragdoll. Completely and utterly forgot. And again, kudos to Gail Simone for setting this up and executing it in such a way as to still catch me off guard. Seeing how dangerous Ragdoll can be was pretty impressive too. That was a tight conflict for Catman and Deadshot. I really appreciate Simone having him apologize the whole time too. He knows that he's betraying the Six, but he also can't help the compulsion. Although I kind of feel that he did fight it. While yes, he got Knockout out of the chopper, there's also a good chance that Ragdoll knew that the fall wouldn't damage her. Plus, when he chooses death and dives at Catman, he knows that he's going to fly out of the side. Removing himself, even if it means dying, is the only way that he can save the others from himself. I don't know if I'm right on this, but he honestly seems sincere to me. I also appreciate Catman trusting Ragdoll despite his apparent betrayal. We've seen Catman force trust into the Six during the Villains United series, and it feels like he's doing that now again. I'm a bit bothered that Ragdoll knew that he was hypnotized, though. He was shown sleeping when Psycho visited him, which means his confession is a leap in logic to me. Although, now that I say that, Psycho did call him on the phone to trigger him, so that would tip his actions. Ignore that last point, I guess. I don't know what's up with the Mad Hatter at all. Whatever did happen, I doubt that he's going to be much help against the Doom Patrol. Cheshire and Dr. Psycho are in Kyoto, Japan, having been invited by Vandal. Cheshire appreciates his kindness, as she thought that he would be super upset by their failure to kill the Six. Vandal replies that if he wanted them dead, they would be, and he is upset, just not over that particular issue. The three of them sit down at a table, a steaming cup and bowl set out for them all. Vandal graciously allows the pair to keep their lives, but he has had so many people fail him lately. But he's tired of always being the bad guy. However, a punishment must be endured. A series of servants deliver 3 plates of steak to the diners. Psycho tries to spin the recent events. He did implant a kill order in Ragdoll, and they fed the Six misleading information in order to set them against the Doom Patrol. Perhaps someone might die yet, eh? That's where Vandal takes issue. He ordered that Thomas Blake, Catman, was not to be harmed. At all. Vandal even had the teams sent for him killed. Their decision to send assassins was deliberate, an outright betrayal of his orders, and this is what he is upset about. And since someone else failed him recently, he's just going to punish all 3 at once. Cheshire notes the very pale color of this steak. She asks what it is. Vandal takes a big bite out of it. It's called chastisement, and it's made out of Solomon Grundy. Cheshire immediately vomits. Vandal reassures her that Grundy will regenerate after a few weeks, so you don't need to worry about him. I don't think that's her problem, Vandal. Just saying. Dr. Psycho, finding his cut a bit chewy, requests some Worcestershire sauce. That scene was just over 2 pages. It's super economical, setting the bar high for how messed up Vandal Savage is. As unfamiliar with Vandal as I am, and really how little he's shown up overall in this is a great way to give the audience a good idea of his threat level. My familiarity with Solomon Grundy is pretty much just the commercial he featured in on the Cartoon Network in the 90s. You know the one. Oh, geez, God. I hope you know the one, because otherwise I'm really feeling my age. Solomon Grundy want pants too. He is apparently a hulking, half-dead zombie guy who dies and returns on the regular. When he does, his intelligence and personality changes, making him a different threat each time. I don't know what he messed up for Vandal, but this is a disturbing way to punish these lackeys. And it also explains why Catman wasn't attacked like the rest of the six. Vandal wants him to sire his grandson. It also serves to make Cheshire a more sympathetic character. As treacherous as she's been, as dangerous as she can be, I'm glad that she struggles with eating Grundy. This is a great way to show the relative levels of evil that are in the room. The six, meanwhile, are staring down the Doom Patrol, knowing full well that they're outclassed. So Catman tries to talk them down. Is taking down the six really worth their time? This is a group of heroes who used to save the world, right? And you're here after the six? What have they done? Like, rob some stuff and steal some hats? All of that money was replaced by insurance money anyway, so really, who got hurt? It's not like they're Darkseid or the Joker, and come on, the Patrol isn't the shiny Justice League either. Both groups fall in the middle. Sure, they ain't saints, but they aren't demons. Be heroes and help the six. They have 2 injured members, and they need some help. Vox, who appears to be the leader, actually buys that pile of crap. They'll get the six to a hospital, but then they're going to jail. Blake can agree to that. As Vox moves forward to examine Ragdoll, Catman picks up a piece of lumber, and then he smashes it upside Vox's head. Scandal and Knockout charge into combat as Robot Man addresses Catman. They may all be in the gray zone, sure, but the Patrol is still on the good side of it. Elastigirl then grows to giant size and scoops Catman up. Ragdoll basks in the view below her skirt. Parademon would have loved this. He then reaches into his pants and, he pulls out another razor. Whew. He rakes it across Elastigirl's ankle, causing her to drop Catman. In the 4-panel sequence of this, artist Walker uses 4 tall panels to frame it. But as Ragdoll attacks Elastigirl, the panels go crooked, emphasizing her destabilization. Then she drops. Beast Boy tries to get Mento to help her, referring to them both as his parents, but Mento prioritizes the completion of a new cycle of Bavarian operas instead. I have no idea what that is about. In Kyoto, Cheshire has managed to force down her Grundy, earning her Vandal's praise. Any woman who can do that is free from all concepts of morality. Psycho burps in overstuffed contentedness. He understands this whole weird thing. Vandal has a mental bond with this one particular daughter. He wants her to have a kid, who will then kill Vandal and inherit the Earth. Great, sure, that's weird, but he gets it. But all of that insanity being the case, why is Vandal trying so hard to kill the six? Scandal could be harmed or killed, and then what would he do? Vandal replies that he needs his daughter to come to him, to choose this, and she will never do that unless he uses her friends against her. The battle, meanwhile, isn't going in the Six's direction. Knockout and Robot Man continue to trade blows. Beast Boy has turned into a lion and is attacking Catman. Negative Man is flying around in his energy form, just lobbing blue blasts of fire around. This drives Deadshot over a stack of wood, where he finds Scandal. He knows that they're outgunned and that they need the new guy, meaning Hatter. Shot tells her to go get him, but she says no. She tells Deadshot to do it, and charges at Negative Man. Nearby, Knockout twists Robot Man's head around, but he keeps on fighting. At least, he does until Deadshot shouts for everyone's attention. Then he points to Hatter, the small man silhouetted in fire. The Hatter points to Elastigirl, Negative Man, and Bumblebee, giving each a single command. He tells Elastigirl to switch, and she then picks up Robot Man and bites off his head. But it's cool, he ain't dead. I don't know how Robot Man works, but he's still talking, so I think he'll be okay. Elastigirl then picks up Beast Boy and smiles in anticipation. She opens her mouth wide. Scandal tells Hatter to stop, but he rambles off some Alice in Wonderland nonsense. She tries again. Beast Boy is just a child. Stop. When he doesn't, she slaps him. That slap itself isn't a big deal, but she did knock off his hat. The blow snapped his concentration, freeing up the patrol. The Hatter retrieves his hat and wipes at his nose. Robot Man tells the Six that the patrol is figuring this all out, so how's about you just leave? Catman agrees to this, but Knockout stops them from leaving for a second. She has something to do first. She picks up Robot Man's head and hurls it into the woods. That is some solid vindictiveness right there. The pairings for this conflict are smart and character appropriate. I'm a bit sad that characters that I'm unfamiliar with, like Mento, Vox, or Bumblebee, got so little to do, and so I didn't really get a chance to learn about them. But I'm going to guess that Simone needed the Six on a fairer playing field. Most of the Six are humans. Knockout is actually the only one with superpowers, the Hatters coming from his hat. But all of the patrol have powers, giving them a serious edge. This is also our first major showing with the Hatter, and it's a doozy of a reveal. He downs 3 of the patrol in a second, nearly halving their total number. I'm super used to psychics as a long-term X-Men fan, so it's kind of weird to me that DC's actually pretty light on them. It does highlight how dangerous the Hatter is, though, which is really the whole point. The patrol could down the Six, eventually, but the Mad Hatter can down the entirety of the patrol. Dang, man. Penciler Brad Walker, inker Jimmy Palmiotti, and colorist Paul Mounts do a great job during the fight. The fight happens at night, in the rain, with a fire burning down a barn in the background, and the coloring reflects all of that. Everyone is generally dark and cool, save for the brighter reds and oranges from the flames. I particularly like their take on Robot Man for some reason. His mouth is doing this weird thing where his lower jaw doesn't move, only his upper lip does. It reminds me of Kirby the Vacuum from the Brave Little Toaster, which isn't something that I ever thought would come up on this podcast. I also particularly like the gleeful expression on Elastigirl's face as she goes to bite off Robot Man's head. Later that night, back at the house, Ragdoll's hand has been reattached. Even the doctor doesn't know why it took, but it looks like it's going to heal. Deadshot, on the other hand, calls his wife in order to break things off. Lady Vic tracked her down because of him. He put his family in danger. That won't happen again. He'll continue to send them money, but he's out. His wife seems honestly upset, not even concerned with the money. Zoe stands nearby, tears in her eye as her mother tells him to burn in hell. That's kind of what Deadshot figured. Then he hangs up the phone. Knockout sympathizes with him. It can be hard to leave family behind, but in this case, it's for the best. As she grabs a beer, Knockout explains that she had a daughter back on Apocalypse. She wasn't genetically fit to become a warrior, though, so she was taken away 3 days after birth. She dreams of her, sometimes, but she also knows that her kid is better off without her. The pair toast to doing the right thing. Deadshot agrees. Then he asks after Scandal and the Hatter. The Hatter is naked in his room, muttering about Scandal violating his hat. I'm not honestly sure what he does. It looks like he presses a button inside of his hat. Then he puts it back on and collapses, tears running down his face in pleasure. Oh, that's some good hat. Scandal, on the other hand, is sleeping. She dreams of her father, his face towering over her. She will do as he says, or he will take the Six away. Scandal stands with her fists balled and shoulders set, tears streaming down her face. She looks like a child, shouting how much she hates him as he argues to take her toys away. Vandal is okay with her hating him. Come at me, daughter. This is when Scandal snaps awake, alone in bed. Knockout is gone, but she can hear sounds nearby. She takes them to be sounds of combat, but they are not. Scandal puts on the lamentation blades and sneaks down the hall, ready to come to her friend's aid. But she discovers not violence, but sex. Deadshot and Knockout are caught in the act, and Scandal is horrified. Damn it, guys, you know how much Knockout means to Scandal. And given how much of this book has been about establishing this pair's relationship, Simone sets this up perfectly. What was barely a character detail in Villains United is now the backbone of this miniseries, and it works so well. Once again, Simone delivers on short but meaningful character moments here before the reveal. Whether that's Deadshot protecting his family, or he and Knockout bonding over that loss, Simone crushes it. One of the small details that I noticed during this was thanks to Paul Mounts' coloring. He colors the white portions of every character's eye to match the scene, always an appropriate shade of gray. The pupils are whatever color they should be, but then there's a small speck of pure white. This is light reflecting off the eye, and it's just white, making them pop. This adds another layer of detail and life to the cast, making them feel more vibrant and alive. This kind of small thing can go a long way in selling who a character is. So let's watch Scandal kill Deadshot, shall we? Issue 5 opens slowly. Our first panel is a close-up of Scandal's eyes, her eyebrows upturned in surprise and shock. 4 panels set this scene. Draped clothing, some of Deadshot's loose bullets, and there are the pair caught in the act. Loughton starts to talk Scandal down, and her expression changes immediately. A manic rage takes over, and when we've turned the page, she pounces. The lamentation blades extend from their housing as she jump kicks Loughton, screaming about his betrayal. Knockout watches in confusion as Scandal honestly tries to kill Loughton. She rants angrily, having thought of him as a friend, having thought that he cared for her. She slams her knee into his face and she finally pins him. Scandal tries to strike with her right hand's blade, but Loughton presses his arm between them, stopping the blow. He tells her to stop and listen. She retracts her blades. Scandal then wipes a bitter tear from her eye and smiles. Then she calmly says never and backhands him. Knockout still doesn't understand what she's missing here. Catman runs into the room and she's unable to explain what's going on. He tries to approach Scandal, but she elbows him in the face, asking if he shouldn't be cooking eggs. While Catman tries to deal with Scandal, Loughton has put one of his guns on and aims at Scandal's back. But he doesn't pull the trigger, commenting that he must be going soft. Catman has finally reached enough of a stalemate with Scandal that she hears Knockout. Her beloved explains that on Apocalypse, after a battle, all of the survivors have sex. Deadshot means nothing to her. Kill him if it will help. She even says to kill her if it will make Scandal feel better, but Knockout cannot stand how Scandal is looking at her. There's a long pause, allowing Scandal a moment to process this. She gets up to leave, and Loughton does apologize. Scandal's reply is to tell them to burn her things. She wants it to be as if she was never even here. If they come after her, then she'll either kill them or herself. Then she leaves. Loughton weakly tries to defend himself, pointing out Knockout's amazing body. Catman replies that he didn't just screw Knockout. He screwed them all. Knockout kneels at the foot of the bed, sobbing. Scandal exits the house and boards the Six's jet where she calls her father. She's coming home. Remember when Knockout healed up in issue 3 and stood around Starkers? That scene was to help set this up. Knockout grew up in a foreign culture, and so her ways of processing and interacting with the world are extremely different from the rest of the group. Being in love is new to her, and she didn't realize that Scandal was expecting a close relationship. Scandal, in her relative youth, didn't realize just how alien Knockout is, probably unaware of her apocalyptic in life. I mean, she didn't know about her healing factor, so why would she know about her sex habits? The most obvious move here for Deadshot would have been to turn Knockout down, but doing so wouldn't have felt like Deadshot. He is sensitive to the feelings of others, like when he killed Pistolera for Scandal, but his own feelings are more important, and getting laid is pretty high up there. He clearly understands that he hurt Scandal by doing this, and he does apologize, But that understanding didn't stop him to begin with. And when he has a chance to shoot her, he stops, realizing that he doesn't want her dead. He's okay with hurting Scandal, but he doesn't want to kill her. I am a bit surprised that Scandal decides to visit her father. She seems to prefer her mother and has struggled against Vandal this whole book, so why not go visit Mom? Actually, who the hell is her mom? According to the internet, her mother's identity is never revealed. All that we know is that she's Brazilian. That sounds like a great thread for future exploration, DC. Hint, hint. A few hours later, the remaining members of the Six are gathered in the kitchen. Catman and Ragdoll are both giving Deadshot crap, while Hatter is off rhyming to himself. Everyone is ignoring him, but they pay attention when Knockout says that Scandal didn't leave them over this crap. It was a ruse. That catches Deadshot off guard. Where did she get that idea from? Knockout explains that he was unarmed. If Scandal truly wanted him dead, his blood would have been all over the room. And, as a note from me, she did have the upper hand in their fight until she paused and wiped at her tears. And more importantly than that, Scandal loves Knockout. She would never just leave her. Hatter raises a hand in the air, saying that's what I was saying the whole time. And everyone looks at him like, what? Knockout even picks him up by the collar to ask. In broken rhyme and roundabout speech, the Hatter explains that she went to Japan to see her father and likely die. Catman asks him how he figured that. The Hatter replies that he knows because he is smarter than them. Honestly, he's smarter than anyone. I like your confidence there, Hatter. It's then revealed that the Hatter bugged their clothes. Their rooms, their plane, their beds, pretty much the whole house, honestly. Remember, the Hatter invented and miniaturized mind control technology, so something like bugs would have been child's play to him. Turns out that Scandal talks in her sleep, and she was alone during every dream that Vandal was in, so no one else would have noticed her doing it. She's gone to Japan to protect her friends using this sexy betrayal by Knockout and Deadshot as a cover. Everyone immediately volunteers to go save Scandal, even a broken-winged Ragdoll. Everyone volunteers to go save Scandal, even a broken-wristed Ragdoll. Hatter agrees to go as well, out of the kindness of his heart. Simone then goes back and forth between the Six's travel and Scandal's arrival in Kyoto. Hatter fills the rest in on Vandal's plan for his daughter, leaving Catman asking what the hell. Knockout seems to think that Scandal was upset about having her child taken away, knowing firsthand how painful that can be. Deadshot skips that emotional touchstone and pulls on his mask. Vandal's been getting everything he's wanted since the dawn of time. That ends today. Awesome line, Mrs. Simone. Deadshot then asks the Hatter why he's suddenly so lucid. The Hatter then explains that after years of using his hat to make others bring him joy, he realized that he could just hypnotize himself into feeling joy. He fondly remembers those early days, lying naked in his own filth with rats picking at his digits. Ah, the good old days. Even Ragdoll looks shocked at that statement. Deadshot calmly adds that their secret weapon is a hat junkie. Great. Then they begin their descent. As they do, Knockout tells them all that they've been good friends, and she appreciates their fighting and possibly dying on Scandal's behalf. But anyone who touches Vandal Savage before her dies limbless. Scandal, meanwhile, has long since arrived. Vandal's men search her for weapons, and then he invites her in for a meal. As they sit, he laments the need for them to be enemies. Scandal tells him that he's won. She'll bear his grandson to save her friends, but yes, they are going to remain enemies. Vandal says that he loved her mother above all loves that he's had. Scandal is all that he has left of her, and he wants her line to go on. But if Catman will not be the donor, he has another selection in mind. Which is when Dr. Psycho enters the room. Oh, hell no! Not this guy! Screw this guy! Get out of here! But my reaction is not Scandal's. Scandal is actually pretty nonchalant about this. She doesn't care who the donor is. At this point, the Six have breached Savage's castle and are destroying his guards. Psycho wipes his mouth free of sushi. He'll take care of this interruption. Once he leaves, Vandal tries once more to reach his daughter. This whole situation, the way that she's taking it, it pains him too, despite their lack of closeness. Scandal agrees that they've never been close. She picks up her chopsticks in one hand and plunges them into his neck. Oh, damn. Never close enough to do that, she adds. She stands over him, asking how it feels to have someone else control his life. Sucks, doesn't it? Psycho engages the six, ordering Deadshot to shoot Catman. Shot holds out just long enough for the Mad Hatter to react, blocking Psycho's control. It only lasts a moment, though, as Cheshire slides a poisoned blade into the Hatter's back. Vandal, meanwhile, congratulates his daughter on such a well-struck blow. But he doesn't need her to be willing. He just needs her reproductive organs. Scandal swears that he'll never have either. Quote, "Now shut up and fight, caveman." End quote. Scandal is a flippin' badass. Not just a good actor and a good strategist, playing her own friends like that, but then to stab one of DC's most notorious bad guys, who is also her dad? That takes some serious gumption. I'd like to imagine that Scandal was planning for her friends to follow, thus distracting Vandal enough for her to make her move, but I don't get that feeling from the book. That moment when she tries to kill Deadshot, where she wiped away that tear, I think that's when she conceived her plan and then she just followed through. Her attack on Vandal reads as one of coincidence, not careful planning. Even if the six never came, she would have eventually attacked Vandal. I also like the idea of her sacrificing herself to save her family, just as Knockout and Deadshot did in issue 4. Better to be viewed as a villain and leave them alive than risk their lives for selfish love. It's an ignoble deed done for noble reasons, and a move that's perfect for Scandal's character. Having some more background on the Hatter is a welcome addition as well. I love that he's been played as an idiot, but has greater depths to his powers, his mind, and his madness. Brad Walker shows the Hatter going through a looking glass when he talks about hypnotizing himself, a great nod to his theming. It also explains his frothing pleasure scenes, although it doesn't explain his seizure just before their encounter with Doom Patrol. At this point, I'm guessing we're not going to get an explanation either. A special shout out to colorist Paul Mounts for the environment lighting during Scandal's leaving page as well. Those shots of the morning sky looked amazing. Anyway, on to issue 6. The Hatter hallucinates thanks to the poison dagger that Cheshire stabbed him with. Naturally, he believes that he's in Wonderland and is greeted by a grinning Cheshire, who is now a Catwoman. Below Cheshire's tree in the background, we can see the rest of the six still battling the now card-themed forces of Vandal Savage. Deadshot and Catman are Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Knockout has pulled a guy's head off, leaving me to believe that she's the Queen of Hearts. But Ragdoll appears in the back, a heart-shaped crown upon his head and a pink heart on his chest. So really, who can tell? Despite this joyous discovery, Cheshire informs him that he isn't quite in Wonderland yet. The White Rabbit, who is Psycho in an ill-fitting costume, barely even pretending to be his character, takes the Hatter to a hole. It's his grave, which is not how Hatter pictured the entrance to Wonderland. He asks Cheshire if she'll be there, and everything fades but her smile. "I'm not even here," she replies. Saying that it can't be worse than reality, the Hatter steps towards his grave, but Alice stops him. She begs him not to leave, and somehow reality manages to come through. I have a theory on this that I'll get to later, but for now, Alice is revealed to be Scandal. She tells him about the stabbing and the poisoning, and he compliments her butt. Catman, defending the pair from Savage's goons, asks after the Hatter. His eyesight is clearly fine, and Scandal can close the wound, but they need the antidote for the poison. Catman promises to get it. Then he asks why they haven't seen Vandal yet. Scandal answers that he's occupied. So smash cut to Vandal Savage, two swords pinning him to a wooden beam. He's smiling. She's so willful, like her mother. One of his goons agrees with his lord, even complimenting his daughter. Vandal pulls the swords out and then orders the goon, Takasaki, to get him a fresh kimono and then to kill himself for failing to protect his lord. Takasaki, unfortunately, fails to do either of those things and apologizes as he falls down and dies. Now it's Vandal's turn to apologize, having forgotten how transient mortal life can be. Then he pulls out the blade from Takasaki, still referring to Scandal as he says, appreciatively, "The fortitude." We move back to the Six, specifically Scandal, and I love the transition here. Walker's final shot of Vandal is his face reflected in the katana, a proud, eager grin on it. The next panel is then Scandal's face reflected on the Laminas Pesar, her expression one of concern for Knockout, who she calls out to. Overjoyed to see her love again, Knockout throws two of the guards away and they embrace. Knockout also promises to never have sex with Deadshot again, who is nearby and protests this declaration. Nearby, Catman and Cheshire square off. He needs that antidote and he will have it. The pair start fighting, but it's all contained to one page, the battle flowing from one attack to the next. Both of them get good hits in, and Cheshire starts to get excited. And I mean XXX-cited. Bleeding from the nose, panting, she asks Catman to make love to her here. His reaction expression is priceless, and then he ruefully takes a step back. He can't believe that he's actually considering it. Cheshire's happy to finally have found a man who gets her. She then offers the antidote for safe passage out of this fight. Catman must agree to it because the next panel has her fleeing in the background. Ever the survivor. Knockout tells Scandal that more guards are coming. They could really use the Hatter to shut this down, but Scandal replies that he's disappeared. That's because he has gone inside, and now appears behind Dr. Psycho. Everyone says that Psycho runs when the real fighting starts. Psycho argues that of course he does. He's no match for superhumans. The Hatter holds up a knife. Ah, you see. That's why you'll never make the grade. Always running from the eye of madness. Then he attacks. Outside, the Six have finally earned a moment to breathe as Vandal appears, standing atop his castle, a sword in either hand. He outright challenges Scandal to battle. Catman tells her that she doesn't owe him anything, but Scandal disagrees. If she doesn't face him now, then she'll never know peace. Deadshot shakes his head. Man, I hate family functions. Scandal kisses Knockout goodbye. She tells her that this was her father's favorite home. Displease him for her. As she runs off, Deadshot reloads and wishes her good luck. He then holds the ground so that Catman can get the antidote to the Hatter. Once again, Simone runs multiple scenes at one time, making it a pain for me to describe. Scandal and her father begin to fight. Their footing is shaken as Knockout runs through the support beams for the castle. Deadshot, having attached mini chain guns to his pistols, which I didn't know that was a thing, but flippin' sweet, finally runs out of ammo. As guards approach him, he picks up one of their fallen rifles and uses it as a club. Catman does get to Hatter and save him and finds a suspiciously dead Psycho, but they're separated as another beam goes, Catman's reflexes allowing him to jump free from the hole that forms. The Hatter and Psycho's body fall through. Scandal and her father do continue to fight, Dad stabbing his blade through her left hand. She continues to fight, though, promising to kill him for all of this madness, but Deadshot isn't willing to wait. He cocks the rifle and aims. Then he fires, hitting Vandal square in the head. Having just grabbed Scandal's wrist, though, he takes her with him as he falls. But she snags the wall, aware of the irony of his life being dependent upon her. Healed up already, Vandal looks at her. She looks so much like her mother. That's why he wanted her line to continue. Filled with pride and love, Vandal is unwilling to drag her down with him. So he just lets go. A tear runs down Scandal's face as his body hits the ground. With her left hand still filled with a sword, Scandal calls out for help. And thankfully, the Hatter has responded. But no, he replies, he won't save her. He taunts her a bit, finally forcing her to ask why. And when she does, he answers. Because you knocked off his hat. His sense of betrayal and indignity and anger causes him to ramble a bit, but he raises the knife high, prepared to stab her good hand. But Ragdoll is there to stop him. He knows what it's like to love something and have no one understand it. But they are his friends. Scandal adds that she only wants to help the Hatter. The pair's sincere words seem to reach him, and he pulls Scandal up while apologizing. "It's the Hats," he says. "They tease and betray him." Scandal replies that he came to save her. All is forgiven. With Vandal down, the guards surrender. Knockout asks if she should just kill them, but Catman says no. They're no threat now, and they've accomplished what they came for. Knockout says his mercy is like vomit on her tongue. "You're lucky that you're handsome," she tells him. Scandal has gone to rejoin the others, leaving Ragdoll and the Hatter to a moment of peace. The Hatter is playing with the word and the idea of friends. He's never had any before. His medical condition, that of macroencephaly, or having an enlarged head, was never conducive to having friends. But he can barely believe his good luck, and he looks to Ragdoll. He promises to be a good friend in return. They understand, yes, about the Hats, how he needs them. Ragdoll assures him that they do understand. "Friends," Hatter sighs. "It's almost a miracle." Then Ragdoll pushes him off a ledge. "Can you hear my heart breaking?" "No?" "Well, it is. Give me a minute." Ragdoll, a look of quiet contentment, says that there's only room for one dandy freak on this team. Then he rejoins the six, explaining that the Hatter has chosen to stay here. Nice guy, but he's a bit of a weirdo if you ask Doll. They then leave, eager to dodge any Japanese super types that might come to investigate. Back at the house, Scandal thanks them for coming to save her. She loves them for it. Even Loughton. But she warns him that if he ever touches Knockout again, she'll wear his balls as earrings. Cool. Message received. Catman then asks the question that I've been wondering, is Vandal even dead? What's to stop him from just doing this kind of crap again? Scandal's response to that is to get her tubes tied. Kids don't seem to work out great for this group. Catman replies that's maybe because they didn't have great parents either. Ragdoll, heading off alone to his room, takes offense to that. Their relationships are broken because their kids were born of physical lust, not love. They should adopt like he did. Doll enters his room and is beset by 6 small monkeys dressed as members of the Secret Six. I don't know if they're happy to see him or if they're trying to eat him, but Ragdoll sure looks happy. You can't trust monkeys, man. I might not know much, but I know that. Back in Kyoto, however, the Hatter is not happy. This is what friendship is like on the other side of the looking glass. Betrayal. He crawls to his hat and embraces it. His hat will never betray him. Together, with his only friend, he will have his revenge on the Six. Given that the Hatter and Vandal fell from the same height and that the Hatter survived, I'm going to guess that Vandal did as well. Otherwise, that ending hit hard and fast. So I'm going to start with the emotionally scarring betrayal of the Hatter. Remember when I said that I only knew the Hatter through the Batman cartoon? Well, I've always liked him because of it, too. The Hatter shown there isn't so much evil as lonely, wanting love and acceptance from his peers. When he doesn't receive it, yes, he does turn to mind control, and yes, that's immoral, but there's a part of me that understands. As a kid who grew up in the countryside of rural Ohio, I knew loneliness and came to accept it. I also loved comic books, so I can sympathize with loving something that others don't care for. Now, I also got along well with most people, so my situation doesn't match the Hatter's, but I get the general idea. And Simone explaining the Hatter's background in issue 5 and in this scene with Scandal and Doll are meant to endear him to us. Simone knew this was going to end, and so she upped his emotional presence, making this turn hurt. It also serves to give the Six a new threat. These characters don't have a mission statement or a goal other than money or survival. Now, as we move forward, the audience knows that the Hatter is out there, he holds a grudge, and he is dangerous. Earlier, I also made a note of Scandal being the one to snap Hatter out of his Alice in Wonderland hallucination. I think his underlying outrage at her for touching his hat is what snapped him out of it. It was enough to drive him to almost kill her, so it was clearly a traumatic experience for him. The conflict between Scandal and her father was nicely done in this. I like that his motivation was love, albeit a twisted love. He cared for her mother so much that he wanted her line to rule the earth forevermore, even going so far as to want himself dead. I like that he finally realizes how close he's gotten to ruining Scandal's life, and so he just stops. I'm not saying that his character work absolves him of murder, attempted murder, cannibalism, and the intent to treat his daughter like a breeding mare. I'm just saying that it makes him interesting. This is the kind of character work that Gail Simone writes so well. It's like her own personal superpower. Overall, this miniseries is Scandal Savage's story. Every threat, problem, and solution originating from her story elements and then resolving back there. As one of the newest characters in this book, that focus is welcome and helps to shape a character who has little focus in Villains United. Despite that, though, the rest of the cast get great character moments and continue to be interesting too. I probably didn't comment on the artwork enough throughout this episode, and that's because it's great. Walker, Palmiotti, and Mounts are all teamed extremely well. If I have one nitpick, and it's a weird one, it's that none of the women in this wear a bra. I am not a woman, but I know how many women do dislike bras. But they still wear one most of the time, which leads me to think that they serve some purpose. And my thought here isn't even that most of these characters would choose to wear one. Cheshire's light robes make for great freedom of movement, so I can understand her not wanting to be restricted. But Walker does a ton of shots of these women from below, highlighting the curve of their breast and their very noticeable nipples poking through. This makes it feel like less of a character choice and more of a sexy fan service choice. However, I do realize that all of these women are powerful, confident, and perhaps don't care if someone stares at them. Knockout clearly didn't when she strutted around naked. I'll also admit my own bias as someone who was raised pretty sexually conservative. I wouldn't want my nipples showing if I was some kind of superwoman in the middle of a fight, and as a man, I certainly don't want my junk showing. So this is very much a Ben-specific point, more so than it is an overall story complaint or an artwork point. Speaking of artwork, the more I thought about the cover for issues 1 and 2, the more it occurred to me that those design elements that I had a problem with, the small panels of the lead characters, the focus on another character entirely, the lack of overall plot points, they're actually present in all 6 of the covers. This isn't just 1 or 2 badly planned covers, this was done intentionally. So why was it? The point of a comic book cover is to sell the book. This is plain and simple. So what are they selling here? Each issue features one of the book's villains or threats. The Korean prison in issue 1, Pistolero for 2, Vandal Savage for issues 3 and 6, the Doom Patrol are on number 4, and Dr. Psycho is on 5. There are then several smaller panels which feature the 6, but most commonly Catman, Deadshot, and Scandal. So they're present, but they are not the selling point. The villains or the threats are. That makes me think that DC was still trying to ride high on the Villains United connection. The villainous scene of the DCU is what they're selling, not the Secret Six. I'm a bit perplexed by this because I can't see someone buying an entire 6-issue miniseries because there's one cover that has Dr. Psycho on it, you know? I mean, it's possible. God knows that I've bought miniseries about some unpopular characters before, but it just doesn't seem likely. This feels, to me, and this is all speculation, that DC did not have much trust in the 6 to sell their own book. Obviously, they do, as the 6 go on to have a pretty good measure of success, but this is the only thing that I can think of. I am oddly comforted that these covers are a designed, planned thing and not a fluke, but I'm still at a bit of a loss regarding them. Otherwise, this miniseries fired on all cylinders. The characters are drawn well, they're written well, everyone is flawed but enjoyable, and it was great to spend so much time breaking this down. If I didn't love the Secret Six before, I certainly do now. Unfortunately, 2007 era DC perhaps didn't share my love. This miniseries finished being published in January of 2007. The first issue of the Secret Six ongoing series wouldn't be published until November of 2008. Nearly 2 years of inactivity for the Six. What the hell, DC? That's not how you build interest in a group of characters. And while DC might not have gotten that, Gail Simone did. So she heavily featured the Six in her then ongoing series, The Birds of Prey, continuing to push the characters and keeping them alive in the minds of fans. Join me next time as I break down Birds of Prey issues 104 through 109. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.